What's really good? What's really good? What's really good? Welcome back to another live of the Sanchez Show. It's Friday night. I know we normally go live Wednesdays. This week I postponed it because we wanted to try to have an idea of who would win these playing games, what some of these NBA playoff matches. I apologize. We had a little issue there with the stream. We're gonna get it back up on Instagram. But again, as I mentioned, guys, appreciate all the support. We are live tonight, Friday, April 18th, as we get ready. Sorry, Friday 17th, as we get ready for the tip of the NBA playoffs tomorrow. We got another playing game going down tonight, as two actually. Orlando and Charlotte is getting ready to tip in a second, and then the Suns and the Warriors. I know the comment section is already buzzing. And I apologize to anybody on Instagram. We had the issue with that stream there, so we're not going to have it over there. Just got to tune in on YouTube. But for the meantime, let's get to it. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to the Sanchez Show. Next week is going to be a very busy week. Next week, we're going to be live Monday for Real Fans Real Talk. We'll be live Wednesday for our regular Wednesday night with the Sanchez Show, as we're going to kind of recap and see where we stand with the NBA playoffs, these series going down. And then Friday, we're back live again. Normally, I would do a live during the NFL draft, which is this upcoming Thursday. But this year, I wanted to kind of enjoy just the first round and then react to it during day two of the draft. So that way we can kind of really consume and analyze the trades, the picks, best available player on the board, and then really get into what some of these teams are thinking and what they were doing at the draft. So we'll see how that goes. So next week, a very busy week. Also, want to shout out to my brother Will Gordon. Will Gordon, taking care of some business, handling some things right now. So he's going to be off the lives for a few weeks. But you already know, bro. Get everything situated. Come back. Let's get back to work. Let's make it happen. But in the meantime, in between time, we're thinking about you. Got you in the family in my prayers, bro. And you might see Will in the comment section. So yeah, shout out to everybody in the comment section. I see all that as well. We're gonna get to that in a second. A couple of things I want to get into because we're at that point. A lot of times people call these as we're entering the dog days of summer. I look at it as the opposite. I think it's a very busy sports season. We got NBA playoffs, obviously. We got the NFL draft. We got Major League Baseball going on, and then what I love to call boxing season. And there's already been a major fight that has been announced. Right now, early indications, it looks like it's going to take place in June. Location has not been solidified yet, but in the welterweight division, Boots Ennis against Xander Reyes, two young, great fighters. Boots, I think, has been on the cusp of stardom for quite some time. A lot of people, the casual boxing fans, aren't really familiar with his work, but I think Boots is one of the elite fighters, and now he's fighting a very good, very skilled young fighter in Xander Reyes, who's also undefeated. So it's going to be a great matchup. I can't wait till we get a little closer to that actual fight to start breaking that down. All right. Um, what else we got? And like I said, the draft this upcoming Thursday. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you follow me on social media. You might see some of my draft takes. I did the Senior Bowl this year. So I talked about some of the guys that I saw there. I posted the interview with Mike Washington, who was the star of the combine this year for everything he did at the running back position. So we got a lot to get into next week. It's going to be a very, very busy week. Make sure you guys are subscribed and that you're tuning in. Let's get to the comment section. And we're gonna get to some predictions as well for these first round matchups. Squeeze said, "Who you like in tonight's two playing games?" So Charlotte, of course. Charlotte has been a team for a few weeks. I've told you guys. I think they're gonna make the playoffs. I expect them to win tonight. I'm not sold on Orlando. I haven't liked Orlando for quite some time. They didn't look good in their first playing game. I didn't like how they ended the season. They had a chance to beat Boston and give themselves that first playing game home game. They didn't handle business against Boston. Paolo seems to be regressing a little bit. Franz didn't look too good in their last game. Desmond Bain's really been the only consistent guy on this team. And shout out to Terry Spain, who my guy Terry, who's covering the game tonight. He's there in Orlando. We had him on the live a couple weeks ago, and he said this team has really regressed. And They're in a really, really bad spot. They gave up a lot of draft capital to go get Desmond Bain. They look like, they lose tonight. They missed the playoffs. They don't own their draft pick this year. They got a lot of money tied up in those three guys. I like Charlotte. I wasn't too happy about the way they played the other night. I know somebody mentioned that, and I think Kyrie, I'm going to get to that one next. And I'll link that to this question as well. But I got Charlotte tonight. And I want to say Golden State, but I kind of feel like Phoenix has the bounce back game and wins tonight and maybe ends Golden State season. But I'm rooting for Steph because I would love to see more Steph Curry in the playoffs. I would love to see Steph go up against that Oklahoma City team. I don't think they have a shot to beat Oklahoma City, but I would just like to see Steph, take on the challenge. Kyrie said, "What was your thoughts on the Hornets Heat game with Melo Ball hitting the game winner and his dirty play on Bam?" It was a dirty play on Bam. I'm glad he wasn't suspended for tonight's game, though. And the reason I say that is because the refs at the time did not call a tech on the court. Nothing was done on the court. So it's easy to retroactively go back and say, oh, this guy should be punished. But the punishment should have come on the court, and it didn't happen. So the refs dropped the ball on that. In terms of my thoughts on the game, Melo didn't play well. 2 for 12 from three. Some careless turnovers, including the one that led to Tyler Hero giving Miami the lead. LaMelo was not good in that game. And I forgot who it was who said, oh, would this be LaMelo's defining moment? I said then I don't think it will be because I expect them to make the playoffs, and I think LaMelo will play better in a series than this one-off situation. He may play better tonight, but I didn't like his game at all. I didn't like Khan's game the other night. They really got bailed out by the play of Brandon Miller, by the play of Bridges, and then obviously Kobe White hitting a big three. But I didn't think they looked good at all. You consider Bam goes out early in that game. Charlotte had plenty of opportunities to get themselves situated and settled down. They never did. Miami got great contributions from other guys. And for Miami, it's kind of the epitome of their season. They've had moments this year where they look good, and then they had other moments where you just like, this doesn't look like a Coach Bo team. They were so high on Tyler Hero a couple of years ago. I don't see it. Tyler Hero has never developed into the All-Star they thought he was going to be. Davion Mitchell, to me, was better in that game. Andrew Wiggins was better in that game, right? Khalil Ware was amazing on the boards. But Miami just didn't have their best all-around player, and Bam, and that really hurt. That really, really hurt. And I hate to see those type of plays with your season or any playoff situation on the line. We know injuries are part of the game, but to sweep the leg of a guy and cause a back injury that cost them that game and obviously their season, super unfortunate. So I didn't like that. I do think Charlotte wins tonight. As I said, I haven't been impressed with anything the Orlando Magic have done in quite some time. I think the Orlando Magic really just going through the motions right now. They just don't look like a team that's in sync. They don't look like a team that really has any identity. And it's a little shocking because last year, when they were the young team and they were kind of up and coming, they had like this defensive identity, with Jonathan Isaac, with Anthony Black. They had this like defense, and Jalen Suggs as well. And it just seems like they're not the same team anymore. They don't seem to defend as well as they did in the past. They don't seem to have like the extra energy and effort like that you should see from them in the past. And I don't know if that's just because they took on a new identity after getting Desmond Bain and they thought they were going to become this running gun, high scoring offense, but they just don't look like the same team. And it's been that way all year. So I expect Charlotte to play better offensively tonight. Their big four guys, Ball, Knipple, Miller, Bridges, I think all of them going to have good games. Watch out for Grant Williams off the bench. He's probably the most experienced guy in terms of playoff experience on his team. You see he's getting major minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a major contributor tonight. I like them. Squeeze says, actually, we'll get back to that. Let's get to this basketball question from Kyrie. The show Steph Curry put on versus the Clippers, who most believe was going to win that game. And Draymond defensive clinic in that game, I think Warriors need to lose to keep its top 7 pick or something. Yeah, so Warriors not making the playoffs would be very beneficial for them. This is a deep draft by most experts' accounts. This is an opportunity for them to try to get younger. On the flip side, it's tough to say that to Steph, to Draymond. When you're talking about guys who have been to so many deep playoff runs and championship runs, they don't want to hear about next year. They don't want to hear about, what our draft stock would look like if we just lose. And I'm sure there's a part of that locker room that feels like if we can get in, we being the Golden State, that they can make some noise, right, with Porzingis, and then maybe they think they can do some things. But I thought it was good to see them play the way they did that night. Now, to be fair, Kyrie, most people thought they were going to lose because prior to the game, Kerr had come out and said Steph and Porzingis would be on a minutes restriction. So most people thought, if you're not going to give 110%, excuse me, to win that game, you're probably not going to win that game. On the flip side, the Clippers situation is crazy because they lose, they blow the lead, they lose. Shout out to Draymond, who had excellent defensive possessions against Kawhi Leonard. I know a lot of you guys, a lot of people criticize Draymond and they talk about his impact. That's his impact. That's who he is. That's why he's so important to that team, because the stat sheet won't quantify what he does for them. The stat sheet doesn't tell the whole story when it comes to Draymond. But in terms of the Clippers, they don't own the rights to their pick. That goes to Oklahoma City, right? So we already know Oklahoma City, one of the thriving young teams in the league, um, has an opportunity now to get a lot of pick. The Clippers, they need a little bit of luck to try to get a pick because they can potentially get the Pacers pick if it lands outside of the top four. And that goes back to that Zubac trade they made at the deadline. So the Clippers were, in a way, trying to be cute and succeed on both ends, trying to see if they can make the playoffs and not lose that pick to Oklahoma City, while also hoping that they could get the Pacer pick. Now they might find themselves in an absolute worst case situation because there's already talk that Kawhi wants out. They don't own their pick. And if that Pacer pick doesn't go to them, then they have nothing to show for it this season. Ty Lue's job might be on the line. Kawhi going is really going to set that organization back. There's a Clipper organization that for a long time was trying to find their own identity. They shared the building with the Lakers. They were a second-rate team in their own city. Not even a second-rate team. I mean, beneath that, if you rank the teams in LA based on popularity, obviously the Lakers, obviously the Dodgers, the Rams. I think you might even be able to put the LA Kings, because the LA Kings, the hockey team, has had some success over the last 10 years. I don't think anybody puts the Clippers up there. And now they've taken another step back. This was the first time they've really been legitimate over the last, and when I say first time, I mean really since Kawhi got there 6 years ago. This was really their legitimacy. And now you're going to lose Kawhi. You've already lost Paul George. The trade is biting you in the ass because you don't even have the picks anymore. Ty Lue might be on his way out. This is a terrible situation if you're the Clippers. Terrible, terrible situation for them. But yeah, shout out to Draymond and them. I thought they was amazing that night, and they showed why they are the they help lead the dynasty out there. Shout out to Squeeze. So Cade and Luca were cleared to be able to get awards, but they declined Anthony Edwards. I don't like it. That's my thoughts on the Squeeze. I don't like it. They gave a pass to Luca and Cade Cunningham, and here's why I don't like it. If we're setting the games restriction or limits at 65, there needs to truly be extenuating circumstances to then say, all right, a guy didn't play 65 games, but it's okay. In Cade's situation, that was an in-game injury. How is that any different than any other player who gets hurt throughout the season? Luca, I understand they gave him the exception because he took a couple games off to go for the birth of his daughter. I understand that. The reason I don't like it on the Luca side, though, is Luca also tallied up enough techs to be suspended. So you're giving him an exception when, had he not got suspended, he wouldn't need one. It might have played out a little different for him. And then again, the injury part of this, you're giving an exemption to guys who got hurt playing basketball. This isn't a situation where it's like, hey, this was completely out of their control and somehow they missed games. No, just like most players, they were on the court, they got hurt, they missed time. I don't think it's right. Now, I do think there's a part, and maybe there's a conspiracy thinking on it, but I do think there's a part of the NBA feeling like we don't want to get guys who maybe aren't worthy of being all NBA to make NBA teams, and then it affects their contract talks later on. But this is what you signed up for. This is your CBA. This is what it's about. You've went down this path already, and I think you got to accept that. And so for the players, I said this the other night. This is what you negotiated. This is what it is. You don't get to now say, well, we don't like those terms, so let's alter the terms so that they fit our narrative. No, it's supposed to be 65 games and 65 games. I'm standing on that. None of these guys should have got the exemption. It is what it is. You knew what it was coming into the season. If you get injured, that's the chance anybody takes. How is that any different than Jason Tatum should apply for exemption? Because Jason Tatum, his injury was from last year and it carried over. So why can't Jason Tatum get the exempt? Why is it that, and I said this the other day too, Wemby only gets that extra game because he played in the cup games. But technically, I thought we don't count the cup games in terms of your stats for the season. So there's a lot of gray area with this. I don't like the squeeze, and I personally would have liked the NBA to just say, nope, it is what it is. The rule is a rule. You didn't play 65 games, so you are not eligible for any postseason awards, regular season awards in this case, or NBA teams, and things would have just looked different, and that's what it would have been. Let's see. Pooh, coming into the playoffs, what players have the most to gain and who has the most to lose? It's a good question. I'll start with the second half of that question. Most to lose. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. Those are a couple guys to me that I think this postseason means a lot for them. Donovan Mitchell's never been out of the second round of the playoffs. James Harden, though he's been to two Western Conference Finals, he hasn't played well in those Western Conference Finals, and he has a track record of disappearing in some of the biggest moments of playoff games. So that those two guys, they need each other. They need each other to play well to kind of overcome the stereotype and the stigma of their game. Kevin Durant, to me, the reason I've said this is Kevin Durant, from the time he's left Golden State back in, that was the summer of 2018 going into 2019, right? It has not gone well for him. He went to Brooklyn. He won one playoff series while in Brooklyn. He went to Phoenix, didn't win any playoff series, and we're embarrassed in Phoenix. And now he's in Houston. And we can talk all we want about how great he was in Golden State. We could talk how impactful he was, how he was the best player on that team, which is true. But he has not looked good as a leader and in some of these situations since he's left Golden State. And now the real question becomes, can he do it with this Houston team that really brought him in to be their leader, to be the young guy? I think there's a lot of pressure on him. I think this is a situation that lines up perfectly for Kevin Durant, right? You've got the Laker team that's banged up, that's going to be missing two of their best players. LeBron, as their current best player, is 41 years old. You know, the mileage and the wear and tear on his body. He might, who knows what he's going to look like by game 4, game 5 of this series. Houston has the better team. Houston has the better coach. And yet it feels like this is going to be a long series. And it feels like LeBron is going to find a way, and maybe help with the refs. Maybe the Lakers get a lot of calls early in the series. Maybe the moment is too big for Houston. Again, they're a young team that got bumped in the first round last year. The inexperience showed in that series against Golden State. Maybe the inexperience bites them in the ass in this moment. But if this series goes more than 5 games, to me, I would be highly disappointed in Houston. Houston was a team that at the start of the season we talked about as one of the best teams in the NBA and a team that had a legitimate chance to go to the finals. And in this moment, where you're the best player on the court, because Kevin Durant is the best player between these two teams, you got the better head coach, you got the better team. If this goes more than 5 games, I'm going to be highly disappointed in Kevin Durant and the leadership that he's providing there. I want to see Houston come out with a killer instinct. They have a wounded team in front of them. They've got an older vet in front of them that I personally don't think LeBron is going to have the stamina to carry the Lakers for more than 4 or 5 games. I really think LeBron is going to look worn down by game 4 of this series. Houston has the defenders. Houston has the length on the interior. Houston has the better team. If Houston is not running the Lakers out of the gym and ending the series quick, I'm going to be highly disappointed. So to me, that's who has the most to lose. Who has the most to gain? Shea, legacy-wise, I think Shea and Joker have the most to gain. They're both already champions. I think another championship for either one of those guys really now starts to put them in the legacy conversation. I know how much you guys love to talk legacy, but when you're talking about MVPs with multiple championships, it's not a lot of guys in that conversation. And they would put themselves, either one of them put themselves in that conversation. For Wemby, I'm not going to put Wemby here because Wemby's still young. And yes, winning a championship would be great for Wemby. Winning a championship would mean a lot in terms of his trajectory and what we view him as, what we think he will be. But I don't think we're going to look at this playoff run as a defining moment whether win or lose for Victor Wembanyama. I think we're going to view this as his official coming out party. It's his first playoff run, and if they make a deep playoff run, we're going to be happy. If they lose early, we're going to kind of chalk it up to a little bit of inexperience. Now they do have a couple vets, De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, right? They got some guys, Luke Cornett, who have been part of some deep playoff runs. But I think for the most part, he doesn't have the most to gain. I would say most to gain, legacy wise, Joker, SGA. Um, I think for reputation wise, Brunson, Cade, because both those guys. I mean, Brunson's a a vet. He's not 30 yet, but he's a vet. But he's been to conference finals in each conference. So I think another deep playoff run would kind of solidify him as a true winner in the game. I think for Cade, Cade is a little different than Wimby because Cade now has been in the league for a little bit and he was in the playoffs last year. Now that they're the number one seed, I think if they go on a deep playoff run, this kind of could solidify Cade as the best point guard in the game and solidify him as a true superstar in the game. Um, so those are a couple guys I think, like when you look at some of these rosters, some of these guys have had some playoff runs, right? The Timberwolves have been to back-to-back Western Conference Finals. So I don't think an early exit for them changes how we look at Ant-Man. Kind of the same thing with Joker. Joker, I think, is had a great playoff run and great career. We're not going to look at him differently. But some of these other teams, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Rockets, I think this is very important for those teams. Those are three teams that I think this playoff run is going to mean a lot for their current roster and also the trajectory of where they go moving forward. Because if you're the Knicks, we know the rumors already. The rumor is that Giannis is in the pipeline. And if you're the Knicks and you don't get to at least the Eastern Conference Finals, we got to categorize that as a failure. This was a team going into the season who had the best odds to come out of the East. This was a team that everybody said it's lining up perfectly for you to have the opportunity to get to your first NBA Finals since 1999. The Knicks need this. The Cavaliers need this, right? The Cavaliers are another team. Are they in on LeBron this summer? Are they going to hit reset on the offense? Are they giving up on the two young bigs and Donovan Mitchell? That again, second round has been their ceiling. And like I said, for the Rockets, you brought Kevin Durant in. This was expected to be KD's opportunity as a leader to turn things around there. Great head coach, great supporting cast. I don't want to hear anything about Fred VanVleet. And I said this on Monday. I don't want to hear nothing about Fred VanVleet not being there. They had all season to prepare with no Fred VanVleet. This is not like a Lakers situation where they just lost Luka and they just lost Austin Reeves. Fred VanVleet has not played 1 minute of basketball. The Rockets could have made a trade at the deadline to get a veteran point guard. They did. The Rockets have had all year to figure out what their rotations were going to be and how they were going to play this team without a veteran point guard. If they can't figure it out now, I don't want to hear anything about it. So Rockets, Cavs, Knicks, team-wise, I think they need it the most. They would have the most to gain, but also the most to lose. So I think it goes hand in hand. And while we're on that topic, I want to go just a couple series. We'll go to a couple series and I'm going to go a couple questions. Again, shout out to everybody who's tuned in. Greatly appreciated. Comment section is buzzing. Again, shout out to my brother, Will Gordon. He will be back in a few weeks. He's just taking care of some business. All right, but he's going to be back real soon, y'all. The Thunder play the winner of tonight's game. I don't think either team can beat the Thunder. Let's call it what it is. It'll probably be more entertaining if Phoenix goes against them. I think Phoenix may be a little better team than Golden State at this point. But I would prefer to see Golden State just because you want to see Curry try to see the heroics. And could Curry put together the games that could dethrone the champs, right? And maybe a little bit of passing of the guard. Golden State was the last dynasty we had in the league. And now we're on the cusp of potentially this new OKC dynasty. So that would be an interesting matchup. But I think the Thunder win, whoever they play. Lakers, Rockets. I've already gone into what I think about the Rockets and what this means for them and what I expect. I think this series is going 6. I'm not sold on the Rockets. I could see them kind of really struggling in late game situation, closing out games. I could see LeBron stealing one of these early games, especially game 1. Be wary of LeBron in game 1 after a couple days of rest. I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron really maxes out to steal game 1 and kind of deliver the first blow. Nuggets T-Wolves. Great series. These two teams have seen each other several times over the last couple of years. I do think this is Joker's revenge. I also think, unfortunately, this is a time where Denver has gotten healthy at the right time, where Minnesota is still trying to get themselves together. They've had some guys just come back from injury. I think Denver is a more complete team. We've talked all year about the improvements of Denver's bench. I think that's going to be big in this series. Um, I like Denver. And I think this series, this is a 6 game series as well. I got Denver in 6. And then Spurs Blazers, good two young teams, couple vets here and there. Obviously, Drew Holiday, Darren Fox, Harrison Barnes. I like what Portland's doing. I like what Portland's doing. I'm happy to see them in this predicament, especially everything they went through this year with the Chauncey Billups situation. Trying to figure out what they have in Scoot Henderson and getting that situated with Scoot. So I like what they've been doing, but I think the Spurs are too much for them, and it sets up the matchup that we've been waiting for. Spurs Nuggets second round. So on the Western side, I got a chalk. Thunder, Rockets, Nuggets, Spurs. I think the most competitive series is probably going to be Rockets, Lakers. But even then, I still think it's only going to go 6. Like I said, I don't think that's going 7. We'll get to the Eastern Conference in a second, but let's get to some more of these questions, man. Again, shout out to the comment section. Kyrie, who you got for MVP, Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, Most Improved, and All NBA First Team? Great question. Well, with the exceptions now, I think Cade and Luca both make first team. Cade, Luca, first team with, Cade, Luca, SGA is probably first team. And then it's got to be Wemby and Joker, right? Unfortunately, if you put Jalen in, then one of those guards is out. And if I had to choose between SGA, Luca, and Cade, I probably would take Luca out and put Luca to the second team. If we're saying Jalen Brown has to be in. But right now, because they do a positionless basketball, you could do I think you could do 2 bigs. I got to double check because I think actually it might be 2 bigs, or maybe it's just one center and then wing guys. If it's one center, that's where it gets tricky because should it be Luca? Should it be Wemby? In my opinion, it's probably going to be. I'm sorry. Should it be Joker? Should it be Wemby? I think, in my opinion, I'm leaning towards Joker. If we got to go one big, but if we just did the best 5 guys, I would say Joker, Wemby, Cade, SGA, and Luca. Jalen Brown just missing out. If we got to only do one center, then Wemby's going to the second team and Jalen Brown steps in. Coach of the Year, I would give it to JB Bickerstaff, Detroit. Probably the biggest jump this season, though I think Joe Mazzulla should get a lot of votes because Joe Mazzulla far exceeded what their preseason win total was. Joe Mazzulla, when most people thought they might use this as a punt year and rebuild for next season, he had him balling out early. He utilized his bench perfectly. They developed some guys that we really weren't familiar with. I think Joe has done a great job. I guess I'm leaning towards JB though. Like I said, I think they far exceeded anybody's expectation as number 1 seed in the East. They were on the cusp of winning 60 games before Cade got injured. They had a great season. I probably would go JB. Rookie of the Year, I think is like I said, Con Knipple. His impact on a potential playoff team. No disrespect to Cooper Flag, and if you give it to Cooper, that's fine. But I just think there's got to be some sort of reward when you're a vital part of a team that's actually making the playoffs. Add into the fact that Con Knipple set the record for most 3-pointers made this year. So I think that plays into it. I would go Con. Most improved player, I would go to Alexander Walker, Nickeil Alexander Walker out of Atlanta. Nobody saw this. When he signed there, most people thought it was, oh, that's a good backup for Trey. The team looked better with him as a point guard. He actually took the job from Trey. They traded Trey Young away. So I think Alexander Walker's got to be the guy. There's been some good players this year. But I think when you think about a guy who went from kind of just a bench guy and, 18, 20, 22 minutes a night Good player with Minnesota, but to be the starting point guard on a team that's the sixth seed in the East and really the driving force of their offense, um, you could really make the argument that he is the best player on their team. I mean, some people may still feel it's CJ, but I think you could make a real case he's the best player on the team. So he should be most improved, in my opinion. I saw a football question. We got to get to that because we got the draft next week. So of course we're going to talk about that. As I mentioned, guys, next week's a busy week. Monday, Real Fans Real Talk at 7 p.m. Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. is going to be the Sanchez Show. Friday night, 7:30 p.m. is going to be the Sanchez Show. We're going to do Wednesday to recap some of the playoff games as well as prepare for the NFL draft. And then Friday, we're going to do a whole reaction to the draft. That'll be day 2 of the draft. So we'll be on as the picks are going down. But we'll talk about everything from day 1, give my thoughts, my opinions on it. So make sure you guys subscribe. Like I said, next week is a busy week. Squeeze says, Texans Will Anderson agrees on a 3-year, $150 million extension. Good for him. Great contract. He has been phenomenal since he's got there. They've been to the playoffs all 3 years. Obviously, he came in the draft with C.J. Stroud. He has been a major part of turning that defense and helping turn that franchise around. This is the most consistent run the Texans have had. Shout out to DeMeco Ryans. Shout out to Will Anderson. But he's a vital piece, and I like it. It's right in line when you look at Micah's deal, you look at Myles Garrett's deal, you look at what Max Crosby gets annually. It's right in line with those guys. He's younger than those guys. He might be one of the most overlooked defensive linemen because of everything that he does. And again, he doesn't play in a high-profile city. But Will Anderson is a phenomenal player and well-deserved by him. What else we got? We got anything else here? And with that, let me get to the Eastern Conference picks. Like I said, on the West, I'm going chalk. I don't see any real upsets in the West. Like I said, I think things could be feisty, though. I think Minnesota could be feisty with Denver. I think the Lakers will be feisty with Houston. But I think the 1 and 2 seeds are clearly so much better than their opponent. And it doesn't matter who's the 8 seed. OKC is going to be better than them. And I think the Spurs are clearly better than the Blazers. So I don't see any real upsets there. In the East, though, I think the East has some real potential. The winner of tonight's game is going to play Detroit in the first round. Now, I got on the live, I talked about Orlando losing their defensive identity. They came out tonight with defensive intensity. They got a big lead early in this game as 2 minutes left in the third quarter. They're up 16, really led by their defense. But if they play Detroit, they're not beating Detroit. I'm sorry. They're not beating Detroit, and I would be surprised if that series goes more than 5 games. Orlando's not that good. Charlotte is a very inconsistent team. I don't think Charlotte can beat Detroit either. But I will say I think Charlotte might put a bigger scare into Detroit than Orlando would because Charlotte's ability to shoot the 3-ball. And we'll see if that affects tonight's game. Like I said, they're down 16 right now. With about 2 minutes ago, down 17. Paolo just made the free throw. But I would have Detroit beating either one of those teams. Boston Philly is a very interesting matchup, and I wish Philly had Embiid. They don't have Embiid for this game. I like Boston. I think this is a 5-game series, but I think it's a very competitive 5-game series. I'm really interested to see VJ and Maxey try to attack this Boston defense. And then I want to see how Boston is going to try to play them because without Embiid, Boston can really play small. They can play small lineups and not have to worry about having a big out there who can defend because, yeah, Drummond can affect you on the boards, but Drummond isn't a guy you really run a lot of offense through. Philly's going to have to find a way to find some advantages here. I just think their guards matching up against this team is what makes it interesting. I like Boston in 5, maybe 6, but I'm really leaning 5. The real intrigue in the East is the 3-6 and the 4-5 matchup. I'll start with the 3-6, the Knicks. The Knicks are going to beat the Hawks. The question is this a 5-game, a 6-game, or a 7-game series? I think it's a 5-game series. I think Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns are going to have a big series on the boards. The Knicks are one of the better rebounding teams in all of basketball. They're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in all of basketball. And if you look at the 2 teams rebounding-wise this year, that's really the big difference between them. 3-point-wise, they shoot it close to the same clip, right? You look at pace, they're kind of similar. Now, Atlanta has the length and the defenders to throw at Jalen Brunson. And how they decide to use that, whether it's Dyson Daniels, whether it's Jalen Johnson, whether it's just Alexander Walk-on, right? They can do different things to stop him. My concern with Atlanta is how are they going to stop the interior of the Knicks? And I don't think they can. And that's where I think they're going to struggle. And if Atlanta has some cold shooting nights, they've been one of the most inconsistent teams shooting the ball. If they have some cold nights, this is where it gets tricky. I think the Knicks' depth, because they have the better bench, I think the Knicks' ability to rebound, and because they have the best player in the series, that's going to be the advantage for the Knicks. I think in 5 or 6. I think all these games are going to be close, similar to Knicks and Detroit last year. Atlanta, my question will be, can they consistently get Jalen Johnson, Kuminga, Alexander Walker? Can they get consistent efforts out of those guys every night? If they get the consistent output from all three of those guys, this is going to become a 7-game series. They played the Knicks tough this year. They lost 3 out of 4, but they played the Knicks tough, especially you saw it in their last matchup. But the key to me, like I said, is because they're a young team, are they going to be consistent enough night in, night out? And I think that's the advantage that the Knicks have in this series, like a lot of veteran teams. When you play a young team, they're very up and down. And as the scouting report gets a little tighter and you kind of know where we're going to push you on the court, where the double teams are coming from, how you're going to attack us, how we're going to attack you, the veteran teams normally start to pull away. So that's why I think don't be surprised the first 2 games of this series are very, very competitive. I think by game 3, game 4 is where you're going to start to see the separation. And that's why I think Knicks win this in 5, maybe 6. But that's where you're going to see the separation. If you're Atlanta, though, if you have any hopes of winning this series, you have to win one of those games in New York. And I don't know if they can do that. The Knicks were one of the best home teams all season. Atlanta's going to have to find a way, because if you're down 0-2, then I think it's pretty much over. You don't have the team, I think, that's capable of winning 4 out of 5 against the Knicks at that point. You're going to have to try to win one and go back home and see if you can hang around that way. Game 1 tomorrow is going to be interesting. The Garden is going to be rocking. Both teams have had the opportunity to kind of rest up and prepare. Again, they played about 2 weeks ago, so you know what to expect. But also there's a different animal. Again, the Knicks are a veteran-laden team, and this is what they really built their team for this opportunity. So we're going to see how this plays out. My upset, though, my real upset is Toronto is going to beat Cleveland. That's my upset, and I think it's going to happen in 7 games. I haven't liked what I've seen from Cleveland. And in the beginning, it looked good when Harden got there. Toronto has not played Cleveland since they made the trade for Harden. So this will be both their teams' first time really seeing each other. These 2 teams haven't even played since November. So it's been a long time in between matchups for them. But the thing that's really sticking out to me in this is that Cleveland doesn't defend the 3-ball well. And Toronto is a streaky 3-ball shooting team. Cleveland isn't a great defensive team. I know with the 2 bigs. But overall, Harden's not a great defender. Mitchell's not a great defender. I'm interested to see how Cleveland handles the early punches I think they're going to get from Toronto. And I think Toronto is going to beat them one of those 2 games in Cleveland. And the pressure is going to be on Cleveland. The talk in Cleveland has been for quite some time. Is LeBron coming back? Is that the answer? Is Donovan Mitchell the answer? Should we stay with these 2 bigs? Because Evan Mobley has not developed into what they thought, right? They brought in Harden to be more of a settling factor. I haven't really liked what I've seen from them lately. They haven't been as consistent. I thought the first couple games after the trade, they looked like a different team. Since then, they have not looked good. And I think this is the one matchup where it's kind of like a sneaky good matchup where there's not much expected of Toronto. Some people are penciling in Cleveland, just assuming, oh, they got Harden, they got the star power, they'll win. Certain guys on this Toronto team have some playoff experience. And I want to see, would Toronto put Scotty Barnes, who's a great defender, long defender, on Harden and really disrupt the timing of that offense and really just force Harden to be an offensive scorer as opposed to a playmaker. Put the bigger guy on him and say, listen, we're gonna try to play the passing lanes. We're not gonna switch to pick and rolls. We're gonna force you to beat our guy, elevate over our guy, which we know you don't like to do. We're gonna force you to be a guy who hunts his own shot as opposed to get other people in, which we know you don't like to do. And Toronto is my bold prediction for a first round upset. For the most part, like I said, I like chalk. Now, as a Knicks fan, I think the Knicks are going to win. If the Knicks were to lose it to Atlanta, yes, it is a major upset. But would I be stunned? No, I can't say I wouldn't. I wouldn't be stunned because I think Atlanta is a feisty team. I just don't think they match up well with the Knicks. But Toronto's the one I think that's going to stun people. We're not going to get chalk. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to get chalk. There's going to be an upset somewhere. I seriously considered could it be the T Wolves because would that stop the potential Spurs Nuggets matchup? The only reason I didn't say that is because I think that the Nuggets are healthy at the right time, and I think the T Wolves are still trying to get their footing underneath them from getting some of their guys back. I also was concerned what I saw with the Nuggets last year when they really couldn't find the secondary scorer for Anthony Edwards, and they lost to OKC. So that worries me a little bit. And I also think Joker wants his revenge. But Toronto beating Cleveland, that's my upset pick of this first round of the playoffs. I think they beat them in 7. I think they beat them in Cleveland. They start an early summer there, and it starts the conversation about LeBron coming back to Cleveland because I expect the Lakers to lose in the first round. And that will become the talking point for the next few months as we continue through the playoffs. That's how I see this playing out. Guys, remember, as I mentioned, next week is a very, very busy week. We got a podcast Monday. We got a podcast on Wednesday. We got a podcast on Friday. Monday, 7 p.m. Real Fans Real Talk. My brother Trip Young. Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Sanchez Show. Friday, 7:30 p.m. Sanchez Show as we recap the NFL draft as well as get into everything that's taking place with the playoffs because we'll be a week in at that point. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you guys are following me across all social media platforms. And I will see you guys next week. Enjoy your weekend. I'm out of here.